Welcome to the Heart of Giving. You know the Heart of Giving is about nonprofits. I know you do because several of the people have spoken to me this week and say, you know, you say the same thing every time, and that's true because a lot of people need to know that this program is about nonprofits. The things that are happening in the community that add culture, that add help, that add additions to our lives, make our lives easier, more understandable. So I'm so glad that I have a chance to let you know about quite a few of them in the last 3 years. Today we have something in town that most people, I think almost everybody knows, is called MOLAA. And I can't believe that I haven't had MOLAA on before. Maybe I did a long time ago. But this program on MOLAA is something that's really fascinating, and what a wonderful addition it is to the city of Long Beach. It's been many years, and they've had several directors. I'm so pleased that we have Stuart Ashton today to talk to us about MOLAA. And those of you that don't know what that means, I'm going to turn to Stuart. So we're so glad that you're here, and you're president and CEO of MOLAA. How long have you been doing that?
Well, thank you, Mayor Beverly, for inviting me. I've been there for 5 years.
And what does MOLAA mean?
MOLAA is the Museum of Latin American Art.
I know,
and
in case somebody didn't know.
Right, and it is the only museum dedicated to modern and contemporary Latin American art in the United States at this time.
No,
yes.
I didn't know that.
Well, there are a lot of museums that have Latin American collections and do exhibits of Latin American art, but
not permanent.
And well, not exclusively.
I see.
So that's really our niche. There are other museums that specialize in Mexican art, or Museo del Barrio in New York, which is focused on the Puerto Rican community. But we're the only ones that encompass the whole Latin American and Latino diaspora.
In the United States?
In the United States, yes.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Well, before there was a MOLAA, it was started by Dr. Gumbiner. I think most people know that. He was always interested in doing something like that. And all of a sudden, it's grown into become a major institution in the city of Long Beach. So when did MOLAA start, actually?
Well, you know, as you said, Dr. Gumbiner started it in 1996. We just celebrated.
I didn't say the date because I couldn't remember.
We just celebrated our we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year.
Oh, that's amazing.
And, you know, for your viewers, I know you know this, but Dr. Gumbiner was one of the earliest inventors, if you will, of the HMO PPO concept.
Yes, yes.
And he felt that art helped in the healing process. And he developed a real interest in Latin American art specifically. I think most of his patients were from the Latino community. And slowly it became a collection that was more than a personal collection.
Yeah, he used to have them, probably started them in his home.
Yes, and then from there to the clinics that he operated, and then in '96 they converted what you know is the old Hippodrome.
Oh yes.
Into
used to be a skating rink.
Right.
And before that, a movie.
That's right.
House.
Yes, a studio.
Studio.
Yeah, the Balboa Studio. So, you know, it has an incredible history, and we have the original floors from the skating rink in there. And many people who are longtime Long Beach residents come by and they say, you know, I skated on this floor.
Well, I hate to tell you, I think I did too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's ancient history.
Yeah, I guess. Well, not that ancient, but yeah. So, so in '96, he decided to open it as a museum and did some modifications. And then in 2007, he invested over $40 million and hired a renowned architect to create what we have today, which is, you know, 55,000 square foot building to house a collection of over 1,600 works of Latin American modern and contemporary art.
And that year, what year did it open?
The entire museum opened in '96. This version reopened in 2007.
I see. I see.
So, but the anniversary is this year, which is 2016.
Well, just what it's done to that part of town is just marvelous because, I mean, it's part of the arts area of, and culture just in that section of town and the things that have happened since that time.
That's true. I think the East Village Arts District, as it's known, and there's beautiful buildings that have gone up. There's loft living,
And that was, nothing like that was there when he built it there.
Mhm.
So MOLAA has been in existence for a long time. And how has it emerged?
Well, I think, as you said, it started with a personal collection, and then as it developed into an exhibit space, there was interest in showing works of art that are not in the collection to demonstrate that, you were on top of things, of what's happening in Latin American art. And also, events are very important
Oh,
to the
absolutely.
community.
Well, it's a beautiful facility, that outside area.
Yes, the sculpture garden, as we call it, and it has a small amphitheater. In fact, on July 30th, we have Lucha Libre, and we expect 700 people to come, which is probably beyond capacity. Hopefully, the fire chief isn't listening.
Are they going to eat there too? Is it something?
There's food trucks. We have a patio where.
Oh, I mean, thinking tables and chairs take up a lot of space.
No, it's just
I see.
auditorium
I
seating
see.
and standing room.
Ah.
Lucha Libre, you can stand and cheer. So it became it became a world-class museum. I think through the exhibitions, the many curators and directors that the museum have had have made an effort to do that, and I've done the same. We've had some wonderful exhibits. We have grants from the Getty. We're going to participate next year in the Getty's project called Pacific Standard Time, which describes Los Angeles as one of the largest cities in Latin America.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's interesting.
By population, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
There's the Mexican consul told me that if you want to say what are the three largest cities in Mexico, it's Mexico City, LA, and Guadalajara.
Is that right?
By population.
That's what he says.
By population, yes.
And that's just Los Angeles, not it's Los Angeles County.
Right. I think he's talking about the county,
Is
really.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's over 4 million Mexicans and Mexican Americans. There's many
Well,
more.
you have a permanent exhibit.
Yeah, we have a permanent collection. Right this year, we're rotating the collection through the entire museum because we want to have as much of it in public view as possible since it's the 20th anniversary. But generally, we have one gallery that has the permanent collection on display, and that rotates as well.
So one gallery is usually a permanent with your own permanent collection.
That's correct.
And the others are for special exhibits.
Yes, we have two that are for special exhibits, and then we have a third one we call the project space, which is kind of a laboratory for experimental work. And then the other gallery, sponsored by the Port of Long Beach, is called the Port to Learning, and it's an education gallery, and it's curated by our curator of education. Right now we have a wonderful show on comic books done by young artists. And prior to that, we had a furniture show.
Just Latinos?
Well, it's Long Beach.
Oh, Long Beach.
Yeah.
I got it.
Whatever is in Long Beach, it's a good mix of diversity here. So that's a very exciting new spot that we've developed there. And then we use the lobby sometimes to display works of art. In this case, we have some of the comic book illustrations in the lobby as well. And then, as I mentioned, we have, events. We have Lucha Libre. We have summer concerts. We have En la Noche, in the evening, where we have something special once a month. We have classes, dance.
classes in, I know you have one in dance. I went to one once.
Did you learn how to tango?
No, I wanted to learn how to salsa, and I was in the wrong class.
And we have cooking classes. We work with the chef at Lola's. He comes and does a cooking class, and we have a catering kitchen, a professional kitchen, so you can bring in 15
Well,
or 20 people.
feel that if they can go to MOLAA for their event, fundraising event, and use the kitchen, it's a real plus.
Yes, it's true, and we also have a rental facility in the section that was the old movie studio, and people get married there. Law firms and corporations use it for meetings and events and so on. So Dr. Gumbeiner thought of a lot of things when
wow.
he put that place together.
Yeah. Now I didn't know. So there are 4 exhibit areas or 5?
There are 5 now.
And one is the one could be like the comic book
Yeah, the
section.
education
And
section.
one is a permanent collection.
Yes, and 2 are changing exhibits.
2 are changing exhibits.
And 1 is projects, experiments.
Wow.
And then there's also the area that we call the Long Gallery, which is actually 4 small spaces that lead you into the galleries. So all told, we have about 15,000 square feet of exhibit space. It's good, and with this year, we're displaying probably 15 to 20% of the collection, which is very unusual in museums where I've worked in the past. You're lucky to show 1% of the collection on an annual basis. Of course, the collections are bigger. If you have 20,000 pieces in the collection and you show 200, that's 1%.
Yeah. So. Oh my. Well, it has grown into something that beyond just exhibits.
It's true, yeah, and really one of the great things that we managed to do in my tenure, and I can pat myself. I had a lot of help in this, but Dr. Gumbeiner really wanted to demonstrate to the local Latino community the richness that exists in their native countries. And so he made it a rule that the work had to be produced in Latin America. And that, over the years, that alienated those Latin Americans who lived here and descendants of the Latin Americans. So we managed to get the board to change the definition of Latin America to include Latin American diaspora and Chicanos and so on. And so that really has opened up the doors and has increased the attendance. Next year, the first show is the show of the first museum solo exhibit for Frank Romero, who is one of the original, they're called Los Four. They were the originators of the Chicano art movement. And he's never really had a solo museum show in LA or anywhere else. So we're putting together that as a demonstration of the new vision for the museum. And obviously you still want to retain museum quality work in there, but it has opened up the doors to
much
the
more,
community.
many more participants and visitors.
Yeah, and the attendance has grown 10 to 12% in the last 2 years. So that's big numbers.
And it's not just for Long Beach, it's the whole Southern California area.
That's true.
And they participate. I've met quite a few people that are not Long Beach people at all that come to everything almost.
Yes, we did, in 2014, we did a show of the photograph collection of Frida Kahlo, which was kind of
I remember that.
Unprecedented. We had the same number of people that we would have in a whole year in a 12-week period. People were standing in line for 2 hours to get in.
No, I didn't.
One day we were closed on Mondays, and one day a truck pulled up with 6 people in it, and they had come from Victorville to see the show.
On a Monday.
Yeah.
And it was closed.
But I let him in.
Oh, yes.
I had to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they were treated well.
Yes. So
See it alone.
yeah. So that, all those things are very exciting. And I think, there's a great staff at the museum. Everybody's committed to making things happen. They're very innovative. And now we have a very engaged board. Now there's not the leadership of Dr. Gumbiner, so the board has to take over. And there's some really good board people.
Are there still members of the family involved?
There's one of the sons is involved on the board, but he's not, he doesn't have an office.
He's just a board member.
Yes. And then there's another son that's the facilities director for the museum. So he takes care, he's an engineer, so he takes care of the physical plant. He's a salaried employee. So, but yeah, I mean, they're pretty much hands off. I mean, there's guidance in the founding documents. Obviously, you can't turn it into a catering hall. It has to be a museum of modern and contemporary Latin American art, which is actually what it is and much needed in the community.
But it's still, its basic goal is there all of the time, but it is a community facility almost.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we changed the byline. It used to be not just a museum. We changed it to more than a museum.
Absolutely.
So it's a community center. It's a cultural center for the community.
Does it have the restaurant next door?
Yes, we have a small restaurant called Cafe Viva, which features Latin American highlights. But it's kind of
It's separate.
It's run by our catering firm. We make very little money from it, but it's a service to the community. You go there and you want to have lunch, you can do that, and the food's pretty good.
Well, that's great.
So.
Well, the dream, I think that Dr. Gumbiner would be thrilled because it is serving the purpose that he wanted, but it's become much, much more.
Yes, and I think, just as he was in business a visionary, he was a visionary about this too. I mean, there are surrounding real estate holdings that could someday allow for an expansion. Obviously there's 200 parking spaces too.
Oh, I was going to mention that when you're talking about community events. I mean, that's really a selling point.
Yes, it's true. I mean, sometimes we have too many cars and we have to rent a nearby parking lot, but still, the fact that on most days you can just pull in and park your car and it's free is a big plus for the museum.
And tell me what the facility is across the street. Does that have anything to do with MOLAA?
Well, Dr. Gumbiner, as we mentioned, was very interested in Micronesia. He set up clinics there and so on. And while he was there, he built a resort hotel and got really involved in the community there as well. And so to honor that community and to honor the community of Polynesians and Micronesians in Long Beach, he bought that traffic island and converted it into...
Is that a large population, Polynesian?
There's a good number. There's a lot of Tongans from the island of Tonga, and there's a lot of Samoans. I don't know what the percentage overall of the population is. I know you know that there's a lot of Cambodians and Vietnamese, and this is not very far. Those communities are
So is it a museum?
Related. It's a small museum and a sculpture garden, and now, of course, the city is building this park where Martin Luther King Boulevard is for that one block, and they've actually decided to call it Robert Gumbiner Park.
Oh, my goodness.
And so that really will kind of add to the idea that this is a cultural district on the east side, and the park will tie into the patio of the...
Is that north or south of 7th?
South.
South of 7th.
Between 7th and 6th, that whole block.
Okay, oh.
And now, they changed the traffic pattern and all of that, which I think is going to be very helpful to the museum as well.
Oh, yes.
And PIAM, as we call it, Pacific Island Ethnic Art Museum, has a a couple of annual events where the community comes out. There's a small display of a typical Polynesian house in there, and you know they've had guests from New Guinea do dancing in the sculpture garden and so on. It's not as active as a museum as MOLAA, but there's certainly a lot going on there.
You know, I know that's another facility, so there are really two facilities, one very small and one very large and active and known to be the only exhibit,
Right.
Latin American art. And you have been there, it's had several directors since the beginning.
Yes.
You've been there for 5 years.
That's right. It'll be 5 years next month.
And tell me what happens then.
Well, you know, I came here from New Mexico. I was in state government there. I was the Secretary of Cultural Affairs for Governor Bill Richardson. And having been in politics yourself, you know that when you're out, you're out. And so we were out, and my wife and I were thinking the next job has to have the word beach in it. And that's a joke, but actually I'd been in museums for a long time, and I saw the announcement for MOLAA. I grew up in Cuba, and so for me, Latin America was a very important part of my heritage. And so I applied for the job, and there I was. So,
And you've been here 5 years.
5 years, and we came here from New Mexico, where our kids were born. We still have our house there, which we kept, and I have an opportunity to go run a Center for Contemporary Art there. So people ask me if I'm excited. I'm not excited to be leaving.
You're going to lose the beach.
I am going to lose the beach. I'm not excited to leave. Maybe I say, well, once I'm there, I may get excited about that new job and so on. But we made a lot of good friends here.
Sure.
And it's not goodbye for me. You know, I think we have to keep coming back. I want to come back next year a couple of times to see the shows that we've putting on, and to continue my contact. You know, it really sort of broadened me in a lot of different ways.
Oh, yes.
To be involved in this museum.
Southern California is different than New Mexico.
Absolutely. And my wife is from Southern California, so she was she was raised in Redlands.
Ah.
So
Next month this is your last month?
that's correct. Yeah, we have we're tying up loose ends. I have a truck rented for next weekend, and we're going to do a moving sale this weekend.
And during the last 5 years, what do you feel good about?
Well,
That's happened.
one of the things was this inclusion of the Chicano and Latino community. The other thing was maintaining a fiscal level of responsibility that resulted in, you know, nonprofits always suffer.
Oh my,
And
absolutely.
So we're just making it every year, but we're making it.
You haven't left it in worse shape than you got it.
No, we got it in much better shape.
That's good.
And then the other thing is we got accreditation from the American Alliance of Museums, which is a very important national recognition. You know, museums are not like universities where if you're not accredited, your degree doesn't mean anything. But they are in that respect. And there's only 850 museums out of over 20,000 museums in the United States that are actually accredited. And it's a rigorous process that involves the staff
In
and
order
the
to
board.
be recognized that way.
Yes, and
you can actually work together in ways in exhibits, can't you?
that's right. Because if you want to borrow a major painting from the Smithsonian, the first
You
thing they
have
want to
to
know
belong,
if you're accredited.
Yeah.
Because it implies or certifies that you follow the best practices of the profession. You know, that you're going to have climate control,
Shows it's
security. That's what it is, yeah.
That's
and so
great.
we got that certificate, which is proudly hanging on the wall.
That's wonderful.
So,
Well, you know, I don't know why we haven't had you before, because this has been eye-opening, I'm sure, to a lot of people. It's on 7th and Alamedas in Long Beach, and it's been there 20 years.
That's right. Time flies, huh?
Oh, I can remember Mr. Gumbiner, Dr. Gumbiner, when I was first mayor. He just felt that there needed to be more money for the arts. There needed to be more money for museums, and he was just really working on it. So, but to see this dream come true and to have you for 5 years to make that happen, thanks so much.
Thank
It's
you very
nice to
much.
see you,
Thank you for
Stuart.
having
Thank
me.
you. You bet. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Wasn't that wonderful? I hope you're enlightened, and I hope you go see it soon. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.